Welcome back to the show. So, everyone, our next guest is an award-winning journalist who has established himself as one of Canada's finest sports writers and is now taking the time to tell his own story.
Yes, in his debut memoir, By Fighting Family, he explores conflicts in his family that have spanned decades and borders and unravels what it means to be Black in Canada when you have deep American roots. Please welcome author Morgan Campbell. Welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Author Morgan Campbell is actually what my mom named me. Yes, it's on my birth certificate.
Oh, I love that. Well, Morgan, you say you come from a quote-unquote fighting family.
Yes.
What does that even mean?
Well, yeah, on a superficial level, it sort of deals with the family conflicts that underpin this book. And sometimes because I come from a family, two sides of the family full of smart, opinionated, stubborn people, and there's a lot of conflict that flows from there, but also the book is about fighting for space to be who you are and who you need to be, fighting for what you need, fighting for who you're going to become, and figuring out what's worth fighting for and which fights are worth walking away from.
Mm-hmm. And you have all your family's business in this book.
No, I don't. No, not at all.
Come on. Everything from the therapy to the feuds. But is it true that you did not tell your family that you were writing this book?
No. I told my family that I was writing the book. They knew I was writing the book. Okay. I didn't ask permission. Oh, I just told them I was writing the book. On the back end, there was a lot of fact checking, so I didn't, have to cross-reference a lot of stuff with my mom and with my aunt. But I also did not, because my family, because my mom, my sisters, my uncles, my aunts, because we are all, again, smart, opinionated, stubborn people. What I did not want to do is get a whole bunch of people involved in the creative process and feel like I was under pressure to write the story that someone else would have written.
Aha. So one of the stories you discuss is your late grandfather, Claude Jones.
Claude, yes.
Claude, as
well. Certain friends that called him Claude. Listen,
Claude.
He was from Chicago.
Claude.
His dad was also Claude Jones. He was from Texas. They're Claude, but go ahead.
Thank you for the clarification. A well-known jazz musician, legendary grudge holder, which is interesting. So what was it like discovering more about him, his history, his music?
Well, one of the things I discuss in the book is sort of this frustration in the sense that he was this incredibly talented musician, accomplished in the sense that he raised 4 kids playing jazz piano, which is not easy, and he never had day jobs or anything like that. Played a lot of sessions, but did not have albums of his own. And so part of this book is me describing the people who are into jazz, what his signature sound was, and sort of lamenting that I have to explain it instead of being able to, you being able to just go to Spotify and hear it. But again, it's a little bit selfish of me to expect that he did more when he raised 4 kids playing jazz piano and blazed this trail that brought this whole family to Canada. Like, that's enough. That's a lot.
You also talk about your mom's perspective from moving from the U.S. to Canada. Can I read what you wrote? Because it's actually quite powerful. If the racism she knew in the U.S. was like stepping on a landmine, violent, debilitating, deadly, the racism she encountered in Canada felt like treading on a pile of dog poop. Unexpected and unpleasant, but not enough to run your life, not even enough to wreck your day if you can clean it off quick and keep moving forward. Growing up, so what was that like growing up as an African-American in Canada?
Yeah, well, so in the context of that quote, it's not that my mom was not empathetic or sympathetic, to the racism we might experience here in Canada, because her radar is attuned to that kind of thing. But my mom is also just very tough. Right? And so she grew up, they were the only Black family in a white neighborhood in Chicago, which is a highly segregated city. So like the dealings with the neighbors ran between cold and hostile, and she dealt with racism almost every day of her life. So for us to talk to her about microaggressions, it's not that microaggressions aren't real, because they are, but for her, she's like, well, look, are they calling you the N-word to your face? No, then F them. Do what you gotta do. If they call you the N-word to your face, punch them out. Maybe I'll come down there and do it for you, but like, you don't have to stop what you're doing because someone gave you a taste of racism.
Okay, so I gotta ask, can I follow up with that a little bit? So what is that like? Because what her experience was with racism in Chicago and your experience growing up here, where did that leave you?
Where that left me was just with a sense of perspective. And I think when I hear Canadians talk about racism, they say, oh, we prefer the American kind where it's in your face, and here it's subtle. And I'm like, you talk like that because you have not lived in both places. Because both kinds of racism are present in both places. You talk to my mom, again, she grew up in Chicago. She could tell you there was subtle racism and blatant racism. It's not like when you moved here, all the blatant racism disappeared. And it's not like when you moved here, she had never experienced subtle racism. It exists down there too, but like here, we were sheltered from what my parents grew up with, but my parents did a good job of like keeping us attuned to exactly what we were dealing with and exactly what they had dealt with.
In the book, you talk about how different cities have different ways of asking the question, are you one of us?
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yes, and so I grew up in Mississauga. Again, my family is African American, and Black communities here in Toronto, like we say the Black community, but we're really talking about a big group of communities, a lot of people that come from a lot of different places that make up this community. And so I opened the book, I'm down in Windsor, I'm living in Windsor, and there's this woman who sees me on the bus, and she starts needling me, asking these questions about where I came from. And she says, well, what's your last name? And so that's one way, if you live in Windsor, of asking, are you one of us? Because here in Toronto, people kind of assume you come from an island and they start asking about your parents and their parents. And if I don't name an island, people think, well, where are you coming from if you're not from the Caribbean?
Yeah.
Whereas in Windsor, it wasn't a question of whether or not I was from there. She thought I was from there. She just wanted to know who I belonged to. And so when people ask me that question, it all depends on the demeanor of the person asking, because I love talking about where I'm from, who I'm from, where we're from as people. I just wrote 300-something pages about it.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't bother me as long as the person is genuinely curious. But they're asking me to exclude me or minimize me, that's annoying.
Speaking of those 300-plus pages, you say this book is a love letter to African Americans. Why did you say that?
It's a love letter to Black America, 100%. Because Black America gets a lot of flattery via imitation. Because on the one hand, folks try to tell Black Americans that we have no culture. You guys don't have language, you just have slang. There's no culture, there's no real history, there's no this, there's no that. All while those same people are borrowing our culture at no interest, appropriating our culture, stealing our culture. Look how quick Black slang terms now get appropriated on social media, and the next thing you know, white people are wearing it out. Like, I don't mind Taylor Swift. I see Taylor Swift swag surfing, but now I'm being told that Taylor Swift invented this.
Yeah, and her boyfriend's haircut as well.
Yes,
yeah.
The fade.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce invented the fade, or his barber did, right. So what I wanted from across the border was to let Black America know that it's not just imitation and superficial flattery you're getting, but there is an African-American diaspora, and there's genuine love that my parents nurtured from across the border.
I mean, you brought up Taylor and Kelce, and there's a little thing called the Super Bowl happening in a little while, and you are one of Canada's finest sports writers. So, yes, we are saying so right
usually
here.
I say that.
Well,
yes,
we're telling you.
We're telling you today. We're telling you. I mean, what is your take? Will this be, maybe because of the Taylor Swift effect, or not? Is this going to be one of the most watched Super Bowls ever?
I think it will be when you include like all devices, and even the television numbers are going to be huge. And television viewership numbers are harder to track now because people watch online. They don't watch in ways that are easy to track. But Taylor Swift is a one-woman economic stimulus package. She shows up. People tune in. Right now, the drama is around whether or not she'll make it because she has to hop a flight from Tokyo
She's gonna make
back
it.
to
We did the math.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. We did.
the math.
It's a 12-hour flight.
We got a flight.
Thankfully, the airport is right next to Allegiant Stadium. It's right on the other side of Las Vegas Boulevard, so it's not a long trip from the airport to the stadium. But yeah, she shows up and people tune in. There are a lot of, especially right-wing conservative commentators, for whatever reason, cannot handle Taylor Swift and her popularity, but she will bring the audience to this event 100%.
And quickly, who do you think's gonna win?
Kansas City.
Woo!
Okay, I'm with you. All right. Morgan, thank you so much for coming by. Congratulations on the book you're fighting, family. Congratulations and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.